You think you're solving problems. But what if all that thinking is just fear dressed up as wisdom? What if the voice in your head isn't protecting you, it's imprisoning you? The illusion of control. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from thinking too much. You know the feeling. It's 3 in the morning, and your mind is replaying a conversation from 6 hours ago, rewriting what you said, imagining what they thought, predicting what will happen tomorrow, next week, next year. You tell yourself this is preparation. You tell yourself this is intelligence at work. But here's the truth most of us are afraid to see. Overthinking has nothing to do with intelligence. It's not your mind being brilliant. It's your nervous system being terrified. When we were children, the world felt too big and we felt too small. We learned quickly that if we could just think ahead, predict outcomes, rehearse responses, we might stay safe. We might avoid pain. We might finally feel in control. And so we built a fortress of thoughts. We believed that if we could just think through every angle, every possibility, every potential disaster, we would be protected. But what actually happened? We became prisoners in our own minds. The mind is a guard dog. Imagine your mind as a guard dog. In the beginning, you trained it to protect you, to bark at danger, to keep watch while you rest. But somewhere along the way, the dog stopped distinguishing between real threats and shadows. Now it barks at everything. A text message left on read, a moment of silence in conversation, an uncertain future, a memory from 10 years ago. The dog is exhausting itself, and so are you. Because the truth is, most of what we overthink never happens. We torture ourselves with futures that don't exist. We replay pasts we cannot change. We create elaborate narratives about what people think of us, and then we suffer as if those narratives are real. We think we're being smart. We think we're being prepared, but we're actually just afraid. The trap of false productivity. There's a seductive quality to overthinking. It feels like you're doing something. Your mind is busy, active, engaged. You're analyzing, strategizing, planning, worrying. Surely that counts as progress, right? No. Overthinking is the opposite of action. It's a way of staying stuck while feeling busy. It's the illusion of movement. You're running on a treadmill in your mind, sweating and exhausted, believing you're getting somewhere, but you haven't moved an inch. And the cruelest part, we've been taught to admire this. We live in a culture that mistakes anxiety for ambition, that confuses restlessness with drive, that celebrates the person who can't turn their mind off as if they're somehow more dedicated, more serious, more intelligent. But there's nothing intelligent about suffering. There's nothing noble about never feeling at peace. When thinking becomes suffering, let me ask you something. When was the last time overthinking actually solved a problem? Not gave you the illusion of control, but actually genuinely made something better. I'm not talking about thoughtful reflection. I'm not talking about careful consideration or wise deliberation. I'm talking about that spiral, that loop where the same thoughts circle endlessly, where you ask the same questions but never arrive at answers, where you imagine scenarios that grow darker with each repetition. That's not thinking. That's suffering. And the deepest irony, we do this to ourselves while believing we're protecting ourselves. We think that if we just worry enough, plan enough, prepare enough, we'll finally be safe. But safety doesn't come from controlling every variable. Safety comes from learning to trust yourself within the variables. The root beneath the branches. So what's really happening when we overthink? What's beneath this endless mental motion? Fear. Not the kind of fear that warns you of real danger that's healthy, that's necessary. I'm talking about existential fear. The fear that whispers, you're not enough. You'll make the wrong choice. People will see through you. You'll be rejected, abandoned, found out. Overthinking is what happens when we don't feel safe inside ourselves. It's the mind's desperate attempt to manufacture certainty in an uncertain world. It's the ego scrambling to maintain an image, a story, a sense of control. But here's what the great spiritual teachers have known for thousands of years. You cannot think your way to peace. You cannot analyze your way to wholeness. You cannot overthink your way to safety. Because the mind that's doing the overthinking is the same mind that's afraid. It's like asking the storm to calm itself. It's like asking the waves to stop the ocean. The intelligence we've forgotten, real intelligence, isn't about how much you can think. It's about knowing when to stop thinking. It's about recognizing the difference between wisdom and worry. It's about understanding that some questions don't have answers, and that's okay. True intelligence is quiet. It's present. It doesn't need to prove itself, or defend itself, or explain itself endlessly. It simply knows, not through analysis, but through awareness. Not through prediction, but through presence. The Sufi mystics spoke of a deeper, knowing a knowledge that comes not from the head, but from the heart. They understood that the mind is a beautiful tool, but a terrible master. When we live from the mind alone, we become disconnected from our bodies, from our intuition, from the quiet wisdom that already lives inside us. We forget that before we learn to overthink, we knew how to simply be. The invitation. So here's what I'm inviting you to consider. What if the way forward isn't more thinking but less? What if the solution isn't to think better, but to think less often? What if peace doesn't come from figuring everything out, but from accepting that you don't need to? This isn't about becoming careless or reckless. This is about recognizing that overthinking is not self-care. It's self-abandonment. Every moment you spend lost in your head is a moment you're not here, not in your body, not in your life, not in this precious, fleeting present. And that's what we're really afraid of, isn't it? Being here, being seen, being vulnerable enough to exist without all the mental armor. The stories we tell ourselves, every person walking this earth is carrying a narrative, a story about who they are, where they belong, what they deserve. Most of these stories were written before we had the words to question them. They were handed to us by parents who were themselves children in adult bodies, by teachers who were repeating what they'd been taught, by a culture that profits from our insecurity. And somewhere in those early chapters, many of us learned a dangerous lesson. Love is conditional. Safety must be earned. Your worth depends on getting it right. This is where overthinking is born. Not in the mind, but in the wound. When a child learns that approval comes from performance, they begin to perform in their own head, rehearsing, reviewing, revising every thought, every word, every action. When a child learns that mistakes bring rejection, they begin to avoid mistakes at all costs, even if it means never trying, never risking, never truly living. When a child learns that vulnerability is weakness, they begin to build walls made of thoughts, explanations, justifications, defenses. And by the time we're adults, we don't even remember we built them. We think this is just who we are. We think everyone lives like this. The perfectionism trap, perfectionism and overthinking are twins. They're both rooted in the same belief: if I can just get this right, I'll finally be safe. But perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's about fear of judgment. It's the belief that your worth is something you have to earn, moment by moment, decision by decision. And so you overthink every choice, every word, every move, because you believe that one wrong step could cost you everything: your belonging, your value, your right to take up space. But here's the truth that perfectionism doesn't want you to know. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be human. Messy, flawed, learning, growing, making mistakes, trying again. The people who love you don't love you because you're flawless. They love you because you're real. And the moment you stop performing perfection is the moment you start experiencing connection. The comparison spiral, overthinking doesn't exist in a vacuum. It feeds on comparison. We look at other people's lives, curated, filtered, highlight, reeled, and we measure ourselves against an illusion. We see their confidence and assume they don't doubt themselves. We see their success and assume they don't struggle. We see their peace and assume they've figured out something we haven't. And so we think harder, analyze more, try to decode the secret formula that will make us worthy. But there is no formula. There's only the courage to stop comparing your insides to everyone else's outsides. There's only the willingness to accept that everyone is making it up as they go. Some people are just better at pretending they're not. The need to be right. One of the deepest drivers of overthinking is the need to be right. Not just correct, but right in a way that protects the ego. We replay arguments in our heads, crafting the perfect comeback. We obsess over misunderstandings, desperate to be seen accurately. We lie awake constructing elaborate defenses for choices we've already made. Why? Because somewhere along the way, being wrong became dangerous. It became synonymous with being bad, stupid, unworthy. And so we developed an allergy to uncertainty. We can't simply say, I don't know. We can't simply acknowledge, I made a mistake. We can't simply hold two contradictory ideas at once without our minds short-circuiting. But wisdom doesn't require certainty. Wisdom is comfortable with mystery. It understands that life is too vast, too complex, too beautifully chaotic to be figured out. And that's not a problem to be solved. It's a truth to be embraced. The illusion of preparation. We tell ourselves that overthinking is responsible, that it's practical, that if we just think through every scenario, we'll be prepared for anything. But you can't prepare for life by living in your head. You prepare for life by showing up, by being present, by developing the resilience to adapt rather than the rigidity of pre-planned responses. Life doesn't unfold according to your mental scripts. It unfolds in the wild, unpredictable moment. And the more you try to control it through thought, the more you miss it entirely. The body knows. Here's something most overthinkers don't realize. Your body has been trying to tell you something. That tension in your shoulders, that tightness in your chest, that exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. Your body knows that overthinking is a form of violence. It's a constant state of low, level panic dressed up as productivity. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between real threats and imagined ones. When you're replaying that embarrassing moment from 5 years ago, your body responds as if it's happening now. When you're catastrophizing about the future, your body floods with stress hormones as if the catastrophe is real. You're living in a state of perpetual emergency, and your body is paying the price, the sacred no. Learning to stop overthinking requires learning to say no. No to every thought that demands attention. No to every worry that wants to be fed. No to the voice that says you're not doing enough, being enough, figuring out enough. This isn't suppression. This isn't denial. This is discernment. It's recognizing that not every thought deserves your energy. Not every fear deserves your belief. Not every question needs an answer. Some thoughts are like birds passing through the sky. You can watch them without grabbing them. You can notice them without building a nest. The courage to feel beneath the overthinking is something we're avoiding. Usually, it's a feeling. Anger, shame, loneliness, fear. Feelings are immediate. They're uncomfortable. They demand presence. Thinking is easier. Thinking creates distance. Thinking gives us something to do instead of simply being with what is. But here's the paradox. The feelings we avoid through overthinking don't disappear. They just go underground. They become the fuel for more thinking, more worry, more mental spinning. The only way out is through. Not through thinking about the feeling, but through feeling the feeling, allowing it, breathing with it, letting it move through you like weather. This is where true intelligence lies. In the courage to feel what's here without needing to fix it, explain it, or think your way out of it. The space between thoughts. There's a moment that most people never notice. It happens between thoughts. One thought ends, a brief space. Another thought begins. In that space, that tiny gap is freedom. It's not emptiness, it's presence. Pure awareness without content. The problem is, we move so fast from thought to thought that we never experience it. We're like someone flipping through TV channels so quickly that we never actually watch anything. Just noise, images, fragments, never stillness. But what if you could slow down enough to notice the space? What if you could rest there, even for a moment? That's where peace lies. Not in having the right thoughts, but in recognizing you are not your thoughts at all. The practice of watching. The ancient yogis called it Sakshi, the witness. The Buddhists call it mindfulness. The Sufis speak of Mirakaba, intimate observation. Different words, same truth. You are not the thinker. You are the awareness in which thinking happens. This isn't philosophy. This is direct experience. Right now, as you're reading this, thoughts are appearing. Plans, reactions, memories, judgments. But who is noticing these thoughts? Who is aware of thinking? That awareness, that witnessing presence, is who you really are. Not the content of your thoughts, but the consciousness that observes them. And here's the beautiful thing. The moment you remember you're the witness, overthinking loses its power. Because you're no longer in the story. You're watching it, coming home to the body. The mind can only overthink when it's disconnected from the body. When we're stuck in our heads, we're essentially dissociated, floating somewhere above or outside our physical experience. The fastest way back to presence is through the body. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your breath moving in and out. Feel the weight of your body in the chair. This isn't a technique. This is a return, a homecoming. Your body is always in the present moment. It's never worried about tomorrow or ruminating about yesterday. It's just here. Breathing, sensing, being. When you drop your awareness into your body, overthinking naturally quiets. Not because you've fought it, but because you've stopped feeding it with your attention. The question that changes everything. Here's a question that can cut through hours of mental spinning. Is this thought helping me right now? Not, is this thought true? Not, is this thought important? But, is it helping? Most of the thoughts we obsess over are neither helpful nor necessary. They're just habits. Mental loops we've repeated so many times they feel essential. But they're not. When you notice yourself overthinking, pause, ask the question. And if the honest answer is no, let it go. Not by forcing it away, but by simply withdrawing your attention. Like turning off a faucet. The water doesn't disappear. It just stops flowing. The art of doing one thing. Overthinking is a symptom of fragmentation. We're trying to be in 5 places at once mentally, emotionally, energetically. The antidote is simplicity. Do one thing. Fully. Completely. If you're drinking tea, drink tea. If you're talking to someone, talk to them. If you're walking, walk. Stop multitasking with your awareness. Stop splitting yourself into past, present, and future. Just be here, in this moment. With this breath. This is not laziness. This is mastery. The masters aren't the ones who can do everything at once. The masters are the ones who can do one thing with complete presence. Permission to not know. We overthink because we believe we should have answers. We should know what to do. We should have it figured out. But what if you don't need to know? What if I don't know is a complete sentence? What if uncertainty isn't a problem to be solved, but a space to be inhabited? The ego hates this. The ego needs to know, to control, to have a plan. But the soul is comfortable with mystery. It trusts the unfolding. It knows that life reveals itself step by step, not all at once. Give yourself permission to not know, to be unsure, to walk forward anyway. Not because you've figured it all out, but because you trust yourself to figure it out as you go. The power of a single breath. When overthinking takes hold, it can feel impossible to stop. The thoughts have momentum, they're convincing, they feel urgent. But here's a secret. You can interrupt any thought pattern with a single conscious breath. Not by fighting the thoughts, but by choosing presence instead. Feel the air entering. Breathe out slowly. Feel the release. That's it. In that moment, you're not overthinking. You're breathing. And breathing is always available. It's the bridge back to now. The reminder that you're alive, you're here, and this moment is enough. Trusting the process. There's a Taoist teaching about water. Water doesn't overthink which way to flow. It doesn't analyze the best path down the mountain. It simply flows. Around obstacles, through cracks, following gravity and natural law. And eventually, always it reaches the sea. You are like water. Not because you're weak or passive, but because you're responsive. You don't need to figure out your entire life right now. You just need to take the next step. And the path reveals itself through walking, not through thinking about walking. Through actual movement. Trust that, Trust the intelligence of the universe that grew you from a single cell. Trust the wisdom that beats your heart without your permission. Trust that you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to keep showing up. The practice of letting go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the illusion of control. It means accepting that some things cannot be thought into resolution. Some things must simply be lived. Every time you catch yourself overthinking, you have a choice. You can continue the spiral. Or you can practice letting go. Just for this breath, just for this moment. You don't have to let go forever. Just now. And then now again. And eventually you realize this is how freedom comes. Not all at once in some grand revelation, but moment by moment, breath by breath, thought by thought that you choose not to follow. What you've always been, here's the truth that will set you free. You are not broken. You never were. Overthinking didn't make you broken. It's just a pattern you learned when you forgot who you really are. Beneath the thoughts, beneath the worry, beneath the endless mental noise, there's a presence, quiet, vast, unshakable. It's always been there. It was there when you were born. It was there in every moment of your life, even the hardest ones. And it's here now. This presence isn't something you need to create or achieve. It's what you are when everything else falls away. Some call it awareness. Some call it consciousness. Some call it soul. The name doesn't matter. What matters is recognizing it, remembering it, coming home to it. The end of the war, overthinking is exhausting because it's a war. A war between who you think you should be and who you are. A war between the life you're living and the life you think you should have. A war between this moment and some imagined better moment. And like all wars, there are no winners, just casualties. Peace comes not from winning the war, but from ending it, from laying down your weapons, from accepting that this moment, exactly as it is enough. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real, and reality is the only place where peace exists. The intelligence of surrender. There's a kind of intelligence that our culture doesn't teach. It's not the intelligence of problem solving or strategic planning. It's the intelligence of surrender, not giving up, surrendering, releasing the grip, trusting the flow. Allowing life to be life instead of trying to micromanage every detail. This is not weakness. This is profound strength. It takes courage to stop controlling. It takes wisdom to recognize when thinking is helping and when it's just habit. It takes maturity to say, I've done what I can do. Now I trust the process. The overthinker believes they must carry the weight of the world on their mind. The wise one knows that the universe has been unfolding for billions of years without their help, and it will continue just fine. What real safety feels like, remember earlier when we said overthinking is a cry for inner safety. Here's what real safety feels like. It's not having all the answers. It's knowing you can handle whatever comes. It's not controlling every outcome. It's trusting yourself within any outcome. It's not being certain about the future. It's being grounded in the present. Real safety isn't mental. It's somatic. It's a felt sense in your body that says, I'm okay. Right here, right now, I'm okay. Even when things are uncertain. Even when life is messy. Even when you don't have it all figured out. You can cultivate this. Not by thinking more, but by feeling more. By learning to regulate your nervous system. by building a relationship with your body that says, you're safe. I'm here. We're in this together. The gift of now, every spiritual tradition points to the same truth. There is only now. The past exists only as memory. The future exists only as imagination. All you ever actually have is this moment. And in this moment, if you're truly in it, there is no problem. Problems exist in the past or the future. Right now, in the immediacy of your direct experience, what is actually wrong? If you remove the story, if you remove the projection, if you remove the worry, what's actually happening right now? Usually the answer is breathing, existing, being alive. And that's not a problem. That's a miracle. When thinking serves, none of this means you should never think. Thinking is a beautiful tool. It helps us plan, create, communicate, learn. The issue isn't thinking. It's being lost in thought. It's identifying as the thinker rather than recognizing yourself as the awareness. It's using thinking as a defense mechanism against feeling. Healthy thinking is like using a knife to prepare food. Overthinking is like constantly holding the knife when there's nothing to cut and accidentally cutting yourself in the process. Learn to pick up the tool when you need it and put it down when you don't. That's mastery, the relationship you've been seeking. All your life, you've been seeking something. Connection, understanding, peace, love, belonging. You've looked for it in relationships, achievements, possessions, experiences. And nothing quite fills the void, because what you're really seeking isn't external. It's the relationship with yourself, the one you've been avoiding through all that thinking. When you stop overthinking, you make space for intimacy with your own being. You start to notice what you actually feel, what you actually need, what actually matters to you. Not what you think you should feel or need or want, but what's true. And that's where real life begins. The simple practice, if you take nothing else from this, take this. When you notice overthinking, return to your breath. That's it. Not as a technique to fix yourself, but as a gesture of kindness. A reminder that you're here. A gentle invitation to come home. Breath by breath, moment by moment. This is how you reclaim your life from the tyranny of thought. This is how you find the peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. This is how you remember what you've always been beneath the noise. You are enough right now, exactly as you are, with all your imperfections and uncertainties, with your messy mind and your tender heart. You are enough. You don't need to figure it all out. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be anyone other than who you are. The overthinking will tell you otherwise. It will say you're not ready, not prepared, not worthy. But that voice is just fear. And you are so much more than your fear. The invitation to freedom, this is your invitation to stop, to breathe here, to let the thoughts come and go like clouds passing through a vast sky, to remember that you are the sky, not the weather. To trust that you don't need to carry the weight of the world in your mind. To know that peace isn't something you achieve. It's something you stop disturbing. Overthinking is not your enemy. It's been trying to protect you the only way it knows how. But you don't need that protection anymore. You're stronger than you know. You're wiser than your thoughts would have you believe. And you're already whole, not when you figure everything out, not when you finally get it right, now. In this breath, in this moment, You are already free, you just forgot. So this is your reminder. Come home. The door has always been open. You are welcome here, just as you are.